I rang my son's doorbell on a Sunday afternoon, holding a pie I'd baked that morning. My daughter-in-law Sarah opened the door halfway, and before I could even smile, she yelled, "Not again! I already told you Sundays are for resting!" The door slammed in my face so hard the wreath shook. I stood there on the porch in Scottsdale, Arizona, 72 years old, holding that apple pie like a fool, tears streaming down my cheeks. I went home crying, humiliated, wondering what I'd done to deserve such cruelty from my own family. But on Tuesday, when Sarah called asking for money, something inside me snapped. I hung up on her. And that simple act of defiance started a chain of events that would expose the darkest truth about my son's marriage and nearly cost me everything I'd worked for my entire life. Before I continue, I want to ask you something. If you're listening to this story right now, please leave a comment and tell me where you're hearing this from. What city? What country? I'd love to know that my voice is reaching people who understand what it means to be dismissed by the ones you love most. My name is Margaret Hanson. I'm 72 years old, though people often say I look younger. I've lived in Scottsdale for 43 years, ever since my late husband Richard and I moved here from Minneapolis in 1982. Richard was a commercial real estate developer. He built shopping centers across the Southwest. When he passed away 8 years ago from a sudden heart attack, he left me financially comfortable. Our home is a 4-bedroom Spanish colonial worth about $2 million. I have investment accounts, rental properties in Tempe, and a life insurance policy worth $800,000. I never remarried. My son Daniel was my whole world. Daniel is 46 now. He married Sarah Winters 5 years ago. She was 38 at the time, a personal trainer at an upscale gym in Paradise Valley. She was beautiful, energetic, always posting photos on social media about wellness and positive living. At first, I was thrilled. Daniel had been divorced for years, lonely, working too hard at his architecture firm. Sarah seemed like exactly what he needed. Someone vibrant, someone who made him smile again. The wedding was elegant. I paid for most of it, actually. $50,000 for a destination ceremony in Cabo San Lucas. I didn't mind. I wanted my son happy. I wanted grandchildren someday. I wanted our family to feel whole again after losing Richard. But things changed about 2 years ago. Small things at first. Sarah would roll her eyes when I mentioned family traditions. She'd make comments about my clothes being outdated or my cooking being too heavy. Daniel would laugh nervously, trying to smooth things over. I told myself she was just adjusting. Some daughters-in-law take time to warm up to their husbands' mothers. I gave her space. I backed off from weekly dinners. I stopped dropping by unannounced, except I hadn't dropped by unannounced that Sunday. I'd texted Daniel on Saturday night saying I'd baked his favorite pie and wanted to bring it by around 3 in the afternoon. He'd responded with a thumbs-up emoji. I took that as confirmation, so when Sarah screamed at me on their doorstep, I was blindsided. I drove home shaking, barely able to see the road through my tears. I kept replaying her words, "Not again," as if I were some burden, some pest who wouldn't take a hint. I sat in my kitchen that evening, staring at the pie I'd brought back home, feeling utterly worthless. Then Tuesday happened. My phone rang at 10 in the morning. Sarah's name appeared on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me thought maybe she was calling to apologize. Maybe she'd realized how cruel she'd been. "Margaret, hi." Her voice was bright, friendly, as if Sunday had never happened. "I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." I didn't respond immediately. I waited. "So listen, Daniel and I are looking at this amazing investment opportunity, a wellness retreat franchise in Sedona. We need to move fast because there's another buyer interested. We're about 40,000 short. I was wondering if you could help us out. Just a short-term loan. We'll pay you back within 6 months once the business starts generating revenue." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. $40,000, asked so casually, so confidently, as if Sunday's cruelty earned her the right to my money 2 days later. "No," I said quietly. There was a pause. I'm sorry? I said no, Sarah, I'm not giving you $40,000. Her tone shifted immediately. Sharp, irritated. Margaret, this is a legitimate business opportunity. Daniel really wants this. You know how hard he works. He deserves something of his own. Then he can ask me himself, I said. My hands were trembling, but my voice stayed steady. And he can explain why his wife feels comfortable screaming at me on Sunday and asking for money on Tuesday. She laughed, actually laughed. A short, bitter sound. Oh my God, you're still upset about that? Margaret, I had a migraine. I wasn't feeling well. I didn't mean to snap at you. Goodbye, Sarah. I hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at my phone. Something felt profoundly wrong. This wasn't about a pie or a rude comment anymore. This was about money. $40,000 requested with such entitlement, such expectation, as if my wallet existed solely to fund their dreams. I decided to call Daniel directly. He answered on the fourth ring, sounding distracted. Hey, Mom. What's up? Daniel, did you know Sarah called me asking for $40,000? Silence. Then, she did? You didn't know? I mean, we talked about the Sedona opportunity, but I didn't know she was going to call you today. We haven't finalized anything. His voice sounded uncertain, uncomfortable, not like himself. Daniel, are you okay? I asked gently. Yeah, Mom. I'm fine. Just busy. Look, I'll talk to Sarah about the money thing. Don't worry about it. He hung up quickly, too quickly. I felt a prickle of fear. Something was off in my son's voice. Something strained and tired and wrong. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Sarah's tone when I refused her, not disappointed, not embarrassed, angry, as if I'd broken some unspoken agreement, as if my money was already hers. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I called my financial advisor, Tom Chen. Tom had managed Richard's investments for 20 years. He knew our family well. Tom, I need you to do something for me. I want you to run a check on any attempts to access my accounts. Credit checks, loan applications, anything with my name or social security number attached. Tom was quiet for a moment. Margaret, has something happened? Just a feeling, I said. Humor me. I'll run a full report. Give me 24 hours. That afternoon, I received a strange phone call, an unfamiliar number with a Phoenix area code. Mrs. Hanson? A woman's voice, young, nervous. Yes, my name is Kelsey Morrison. I'm a former co-worker of Sarah's, from the gym. I need to talk to you about something important. Can we meet in person? My heart started racing. What is this about? I'd rather not say over the phone, but it's about your son and your safety. Please, can we meet tomorrow? Somewhere public? We agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Old Town Scottsdale the following morning. I barely slept again that night. My mind raced with possibilities. What could this stranger possibly know about Sarah? About Daniel? About my safety? Kelsey was 29, athletic, with kind eyes that looked genuinely worried. We sat in a corner booth. She ordered nothing. She looked around nervously before leaning forward. Mrs. Hanson, I worked with Sarah for 3 years before she married your son. We were friends. At least, I thought we were. About 6 months ago, I overheard her on the phone in the locker room. She was talking to someone about you, about your finances, about how much you're worth. My throat went dry. What exactly did she say? She said you were worth at least $3 million, probably more. She said Daniel was too soft, too hesitant. She said she needed to speed things up because you were getting older and might change your will. She said, and I'm quoting here, "Old people have accidents all the time. No one questions it." The room tilted. I gripped the table. I didn't know what to do, Kelsey continued, tears forming. I confronted her the next day. She denied everything. Said I misheard. 2 weeks later, I was fired. They claimed budget cuts, but I know it was her. She has connections with the gym owner. I've been terrified ever since. But when I saw you listed in a charity event in the newspaper last week, I knew I had to warn you. Why didn't you go to the police? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. And tell them what? That I overheard a conversation. There's no proof, no recording. It would be my word against hers. But you need to be careful, Mrs. Hanson. I think Sarah married your son to get access to your money, and I think she's dangerous. I thanked Kelsey. I gave her my number. I drove home in a daze. That evening, Tom called. Margaret, we have a problem. Someone tried to open a line of credit using your information 3 weeks ago. The application was flagged because the address didn't match our records. They used your social security number, your birth date, everything. The application listed Daniel as a co-applicant and Sarah as a beneficiary contact. My hands went numb. How much were they trying to borrow? $500,000. I thought I might be sick. There's more, Tom said quietly. I ran a deeper check. Your life insurance policy. Someone requested a beneficiary verification 2 months ago. The request came from an email address registered to Sarah. I couldn't breathe. My own daughter-in-law was researching my death benefits. Tom, I need you to do something. Change all my passwords, add fraud alerts to everything, and I need you to recommend a private investigator. Someone discreet. I know someone, former FBI. I'll send you his information tonight. I hired the investigator, a man named Marcus Webb, the next day. He was 60, methodical, with a calm presence that steadied my panic. Mrs. Hanson, I'm going to be very direct. Based on what you've told me, you may be in danger. We need to gather evidence quickly and involve law enforcement as soon as we have something concrete. In the meantime, I need you to act normal. Don't confront them. Don't change your routine dramatically. Can you do that? I nodded, though I felt like my world was collapsing. Marcus installed hidden cameras in my home. Small, discreet devices in the living room, kitchen, and entryway. He also gave me a pendant with a GPS tracker and emergency button. If anything feels wrong, you press this. It alerts me and 911 simultaneously. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus worked quietly. He traced phone records, financial documents, and social media activity. What he discovered was worse than I'd imagined. Sarah had been married twice before. Her first husband died in a hiking accident in Colorado 7 years ago. He'd had a life insurance policy worth $200,000. Sarah was the beneficiary. The second husband divorced her after 18 months, citing emotional abuse and suspicions of infidelity. He'd filed a restraining order that was later dropped. Marcus also found text messages between Sarah and a man named Rick Valdez. Rick was a personal trainer at the same gym where Sarah had worked. The messages were explicit, not just about an affair, but about plans, about timelines, about me. One message from Sarah, sent 3 weeks earlier. She's stubborn, won't give us the money willingly. We need to make her think she's losing her mind. Small doses, then we stage the accident. Rick's response, you sure Daniel won't figure it out? Sarah, Daniel's weak. He does what I tell him. By the time he realizes, it'll be too late. Marcus showed me these messages in his office. I stared at the screen, feeling a coldness I'd never experienced. My daughter-in-law was planning to kill me, and she thought my son was too weak to stop her. We need to involve the police now, Marcus said firmly. This is conspiracy to commit murder. We have enough. But before we could, something happened that accelerated everything. It was a Thursday evening. I was home alone, making dinner, when my doorbell rang. I checked the camera Marcus had installed. Sarah stood on my porch, smiling, holding a bottle of wine. My heart hammered. I pressed the panic button on my pendant, then took a breath and opened the door. Sarah, this is unexpected. I know, I've been awful to you, Margaret. I want to apologize, really apologize. Can I come in? Every instinct screamed no, but I needed to stay calm. Marcus was monitoring. Help was coming. "Of course," I said, stepping aside. She walked in, setting the wine on my kitchen counter. She looked around, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. "Your home is so beautiful. Richard had such good taste." "Thank you." She poured 2 glasses of wine without asking, handed me one. "I want to make a toast," she said, "to family, to second chances." I didn't drink. I held the glass but didn't raise it to my lips. Her smile faded slightly. "You're not drinking?" "I'm not much of a wine person at night anymore. Gives me headaches." "Oh," she set her glass down. Her expression shifted. Harder. "You know, Margaret, I've been thinking a lot about our relationship, about how you never really accepted me, how you always made me feel like I wasn't good enough for Daniel." "That's not true, Sarah, isn't it?" Her voice rose. "You hover. You judge. You hold money over our heads. Do you know how humiliating it is to ask you for help? To need you? I've never held anything over anyone. You exist as a reminder that we'll never have what you have." She was yelling now, her face flushed. "You sit in this huge house, hoarding millions, while Daniel works himself to exhaustion, while we struggle. It's not fair. Sarah, you need to leave." "No." She stepped closer. "I'm done leaving. I'm done playing nice. You're going to write me a check tonight, $500,000, or I'll make sure you regret it." "Is that a threat?" She laughed, a wild sound. "You're so old, Margaret, so fragile. Accidents happen to women your age all the time. Falls downstairs, medication mix-ups, strokes. Who would question it?" My blood ran cold. She was saying it out loud, confessing. I heard a car door slam outside, footsteps on the porch. Sarah heard it too. Her eyes darted to the window. The door burst open. Marcus came through first, followed by 2 police officers. "Scottsdale Police, hands where we can see them." Sarah's face went white. She bolted toward the back door, but Marcus was faster. He caught her arm, spinning her around as an officer handcuffed her. "Sarah Winters, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and attempted extortion." "This is insane," Sarah screamed. "She's lying. She's a crazy old woman." "We have recordings, Ms. Winters," Marcus said calmly. "Text messages, financial records, and everything you just said in this room was recorded." Sarah's legs gave out. The officers had to hold her up. They took her away in handcuffs, still screaming about injustice, about being framed. I collapsed into a chair, shaking violently. Marcus brought me water. "You're safe now, Mrs. Hanson. You did everything right." But I wasn't thinking about my safety. I was thinking about Daniel, my son, who I hadn't seen in 3 weeks, who had sounded so strange on the phone. "Marcus, where is Daniel?" He hesitated. "We've been trying to locate him. His phone's been off for 2 days. His car is at his house, but he's not there." Panic seized me. "You think she did something to him?" "We don't know, but we're looking." They found Daniel 18 hours later, locked in a storage unit Sarah had rented under a fake name. He was dehydrated, terrified, but alive. She drugged him, told him she was taking him to a wellness retreat. When he woke up in darkness, tied to a chair, he'd realized the truth. She'd been planning to kill him too, make it look like a murder-suicide. Mother and son, tragic family violence. She would have been the grieving widow, inheriting everything. The trial took place 8 months later. The evidence was overwhelming. Text messages detailing the entire plot, financial fraud spanning 3 years. Testimony from Rick Valdez, who turned state's witness to avoid harsher charges. Kelsey Morrison's statement about the phone call she'd overheard. Sarah was convicted on multiple counts: conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, identity theft, kidnapping, and attempted extortion. She received 35 years in prison without possibility of parole for the first 20. Rick Valdez got 12 years for conspiracy. Daniel testified against her. He told the court how she'd manipulated him, isolated him from me, convinced him I was trying to control his life. How she'd gradually drugged his coffee over months, making him foggy and compliant. How he'd started to suspect something was wrong, but felt trapped, afraid, unsure who to trust. My son sat on that witness stand and cried. He looked at me across the courtroom and mouthed, "I'm sorry." I nodded, because despite everything, he was still my son, still the boy I'd raised, and he'd been a victim too. After the trial, Daniel moved back to Scottsdale. He sold the house he'd shared with Sarah. He started therapy. We started rebuilding our relationship slowly, carefully, with honesty we'd never had before. He told me he'd always felt pressure to live up to his father's success, that he'd married Sarah because she made him feel needed, important, that he'd ignored red flags because he was lonely. I told him I'd failed him too, that I'd been so focused on being a supportive mother that I hadn't taught him how to recognize manipulation, how to set boundaries, how to value himself. We both had to learn how to be a family again. I'm 73 now. It's been a year since Sarah's conviction. I still live in my home in Scottsdale. I still manage my investments, my properties, my life, but I'm different now, warier, smarter. I've also become an advocate. I speak at senior centers about financial abuse, about elder fraud, about the warning signs of family members who see you as an ATM rather than a person. I tell my story because I know there are thousands of others like me. Widows and widowers with resources, with trusting hearts, with children and relatives who circle like vultures. I've learned that love doesn't mean blind trust, that family doesn't automatically equal safety, that you can care deeply for someone and still protect yourself from their worst impulses. Do I forgive Sarah? No. What she planned was unforgivable. She wanted me dead. She wanted my son destroyed. She wanted money more than she wanted humanity. Do I forgive Daniel? I'm working on it. Some days are easier than others. He's working hard to earn back my trust, to prove that he's learned from his mistakes, to show me that he values our relationship more than any inheritance. I've updated my will. Most of my estate will go to charities focused on elder protection and domestic violence prevention. Daniel will receive a trust that pays out over time, managed by independent trustees. It's enough to live comfortably, but not enough to make him a target again. He didn't argue. He understood. What I want people to understand, especially older people who might be listening to this, is that your intuition is valid. If something feels wrong, it probably is. If someone treats you with cruelty one day and asks for money the next, that's not love. That's exploitation. You have the right to say no. You have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to demand respect, even from family, especially from family. That Sunday afternoon when Sarah screamed at me on the doorstep, holding my pie, I felt worthless, small, like a burden. Now I know I was never the problem. My kindness wasn't weakness. My generosity wasn't foolishness. I was simply a mother who loved her son and wanted to believe the best in people. The world tried to punish me for that. Sarah tried to kill me for that. But I survived. I fought back. I protected myself and my son. And I'm still here, telling this story, hoping it saves someone else. Because the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves. The ones that say family would never hurt us, that blood means loyalty, that our children's choices are always safe. Sometimes the people who know us best are the ones who know exactly how to destroy us, but they can only succeed if we let them. 6 months have passed since I stood in that courtroom and watched Sarah being led away in handcuffs. 6 months since I heard the judge pronounce a sentence that felt both like justice and like failure. Because no matter how many years she received, it couldn't undo the fact that my family had been infiltrated by someone who saw us as nothing more than a financial opportunity. Someone who would have killed us both without hesitation. It's a Wednesday afternoon in November, and I'm sitting in my garden, watching the Arizona sun paint the desert plants in shades of amber and gold. The temperature has finally dropped below 90 degrees. This is my favorite time of year in Scottsdale. The snowbirds haven't arrived yet, the tourists are sparse, and the city feels like it belongs to those of us who actually live here year-round. Daniel is inside, making coffee. He moved into my guest house 4 months ago. Not permanently, he insists. Just until he finds the right place. Just until he feels steady again. I don't push him. We're both healing, and healing doesn't follow a schedule. He's different now, quieter, more thoughtful. He goes to therapy twice a week with Dr. Patricia Morales, a trauma specialist who works with victims of domestic manipulation. He started painting again, something he hadn't done since college. His hands shake sometimes when he thinks I'm not looking. He still has nightmares about that storage unit, about waking up in darkness, bound and drugged, realizing the woman he'd married wanted him dead. But he's trying. That's what matters. Mom? He appears at the patio door, holding 2 mugs. Decaf the way you like it. Thank you, sweetheart. He sits across from me, and for a moment, we just exist in comfortable silence. This is new for us. Before Sarah, we'd always filled silences with chatter, with questions, with the nervous energy of people who loved each other, but didn't quite know how to be together. Now we've learned that silence can be peaceful, that we don't need to perform our relationship. I got an email from the prosecutor's office today, Daniel says finally. Sarah's appealing her sentence. My stomach tightens, but I keep my voice calm. That was expected. Tom warned us she would. Yeah. He stares into his coffee. Her lawyer is claiming she was coerced by Rick, that she was a victim too, that she never actually intended to hurt anyone. I laugh, but there's no humor in it. Except we have her text messages, her financial records, her research into my life insurance policies, her attempt to open fraudulent credit lines. I know, the prosecutor says the appeal won't succeed, but it still feels like she gets to keep terrorizing us even from prison. I reach across the table and take my son's hand. His fingers are cold despite the warm evening. She only has the power we give her, Daniel. She's locked away. She can't hurt us anymore. The appeal is just noise, legal procedure. It doesn't change what happened or what she is. He nods, but I can see the tension in his jaw. The fear hasn't left him completely. Maybe it never will. I saw Kelsey yesterday, he says, changing the subject. At the grocery store. She asked about you. Kelsey Morrison, the young woman who'd risked her career and possibly her safety to warn me. We'd stayed in touch since the trial. I'd helped her find a new job at a different fitness center, one where Sarah's influence couldn't reach. She'd testified beautifully in court, clear and credible and brave. How is she? Good, she's engaged now. To a teacher. She seemed happy. I'm glad. She deserves happiness. She saved my life, Daniel. Probably saved yours too. He's quiet for a long moment. Then, I still don't understand how I missed it. All the signs. How she was using me, using both of us. I keep going over it in therapy, trying to figure out where I went wrong. You didn't go wrong. She was a predator. Predators are skilled at deception. That's how they survive. But I'm not stupid, Mom. I'm educated, successful. How did I let someone like that into our lives? This is the question he asks most often. The one that tortures him late at night when the nightmares wake him up. I've learned there's no perfect answer, only truth. Because you're human, I say gently. Because you wanted love and companionship, and she knew exactly how to perform those things. Because loneliness makes us vulnerable, and she exploited that vulnerability. You're not the first person to be fooled by a narcissist, and you won't be the last. Do you forgive me? His voice cracks. For bringing her into your life? For not protecting you? I've asked myself this question too. Late at night, when I can't sleep, when I remember the terror of realizing my own daughter-in-law wanted me dead, do I forgive my son for his role in my near destruction? Yes, I say, and I mean it. I forgive you, Daniel. You were manipulated. You were drugged. You were a victim too. What I can't forgive is if you don't learn from this, if you don't grow, if you don't become the kind of man who recognizes red flags and trusts his instincts. I'm trying, he whispers. I know you are, and that's enough. We finish our coffee as the sun sets completely, leaving the sky streaked with purple and pink. Inside, my phone buzzes. A text from Marcus Webb, the private investigator who'd helped build the case against Sarah. The message reads, "Thought you'd want to know. Rick Valdez started cooperating more fully. He's implicating Sarah in another potential case. A woman in Colorado, the hiking accident husband. Investigators are reopening it." I show Daniel the message. His face goes pale. Jesus, how many people did she hurt? I don't know, but at least now they're looking. At least there might be justice for others too. It's a strange comfort, knowing that Sarah's conviction might lead to uncovering more of her crimes, that other families might get answers, that her pattern of destruction is finally being exposed fully. The next day, I have lunch with my women's group. We meet monthly at a restaurant in Old Town. These are women I've known for decades, friends who supported me through Richard's death, through the trial, through everything, women in their 60s and 70s who've lived full lives and refused to be invisible. Today, I tell them about my new project. I've been working with a nonprofit called Elder Shield Arizona. We're developing educational programs for seniors about financial abuse, romance scams, and family exploitation. I've agreed to be a spokesperson, to share my story publicly, to help others recognize the warning signs I missed. "Aren't you afraid of the publicity?" asks Linda Chen, Tom's wife. "Of people knowing what happened?" I was at first, I admit. I felt ashamed, like I'd been stupid, like people would judge me for not seeing through Sarah sooner. But then I realized shame is exactly what predators count on. They count on us being too embarrassed to speak up, too proud to admit we were fooled. I'm done giving them that power. My friend Patricia, a retired federal judge, raises her glass. To Margaret, for turning tragedy into advocacy, for refusing to be a victim. We toast, we laugh, we share stories about our own close calls with scammers and manipulators. Every woman at this table has a story. Every woman has faced some version of what I experienced. That's what Sarah didn't understand. She thought I was isolated, vulnerable, an easy target. She didn't realize I had a community, a network, resources and friends who would fight for me. That evening, Daniel and I attend a fundraiser for the nonprofit. It's my first public appearance since the trial. I'm nervous, but Daniel stands beside me, steady and supportive. I give a short speech. I tell a condensed version of what happened. I talk about the importance of trust, but verify. About maintaining financial independence. About listening to your instincts. About the reality that elder abuse often comes from family members, not strangers. When I finish, the room is silent. Then someone starts clapping. Then everyone. A standing ovation that makes tears stream down my face. Afterward, several people approach me. An older man whose son stole his retirement savings. A woman whose daughter-in-law tried to have her declared incompetent to seize power of attorney. A widower whose new wife isolated him from his children and drained his accounts. We're a club nobody wants to join, but we're survivors. And we're done being silent. As Daniel drives us home that night, he says, "I'm proud of you, Mom. Dad would be proud too." I think about Richard, my steady, brilliant husband who built an empire and left me secure, who taught Daniel integrity and work ethic, who would be heartbroken by what almost happened to us, but would also be fierce in his pride at how we survived. "Your father would tell us to keep moving forward," I say, "to not let Sarah's evil define us." "Are you happy, Mom? Really happy?" I consider the question. Am I happy? 6 months ago, I nearly died. My son nearly died. My trust was shattered. My family was broken. But now I have purpose. I have a relationship with Daniel that's honest and real. I have my health, my home, my independence. I have friends and community and a mission to help others. Yes, I say, surprised by how true it is. I'm happy. Not the same kind of happy I was before, but something deeper, something earned. When we get home, I find an envelope in my mailbox. No return address, just my name written in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside is a single sheet of paper. A letter from a woman named Grace Peterson in Colorado. She writes that she's the sister of Sarah's first husband, the one who died in the hiking accident. She writes that they always suspected Sarah was involved, but could never prove it. She writes that, thanks to the Arizona investigation, Colorado authorities are finally taking another look at his death. She ends with, "Thank you for your courage. Thank you for stopping her. Thank you for giving my brother's death a chance at justice. You saved lives, Mrs. Hansen, including lives that haven't even been threatened yet. You stopped a serial killer before she could fully become one." I sit on my porch reading this letter over and over, crying quietly in the darkness. Daniel finds me there an hour later. He reads the letter. He cries too. "We did the right thing," he says. "Even though it was hard, even though it broke us, we did the right thing." Yes, I agree, we did. And in that moment, surrounded by the quiet desert night, holding my son's hand, I feel something I haven't felt in a very long time. Peace. Not the absence of pain, not the erasure of trauma, but the deep, solid knowledge that we survived, that we fought back, that we chose truth over comfort, justice over silence. Sarah wanted to destroy us for money. Instead, she gave us something she never intended. Clarity about who we are and what we're capable of enduring. She wanted to make us victims. We chose to become survivors. And that choice, that daily decision to keep healing, keep growing, keep living with purpose and courage, is the greatest revenge we could ever have. Sarah sits in a prison cell tonight, bitter and angry, blaming everyone but herself. I sit in my beautiful home, surrounded by love and purpose and possibility. She lost everything. I found myself. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure that other families don't have to learn these lessons the way we did. That's not just survival, that's victory.